back, friends. You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
What's going on, everybody? My name is John Brookhagen, host of the Johnny Brew Show, and welcome to the Kyle Rittenhouse, Kenosha, Wisconsin edition. We covered the Derek Chauvin trial regarding the death of George Floyd, and that was very in-depth coverage. That trial lasted about a month and a half, and we gave you weekly updates, and we're here to do the same thing for Kyle Rittenhouse. Thankfully, it's a much shorter trial. All right. These past week and a half, we've seen the prosecution present its case. We saw the defense present its case, and we're expecting on Monday closing arguments. And I would expect a verdict to be reached pretty quickly. But again, you never know what a jury's going to do. So I'm here to tell you a little story. All right. Some of the things in my story may be my assumptions, such as how a mother might have felt or what someone was thinking. But this is pretty much what I've gathered from everything I've seen. And I will show you what happened to prove it. But Kyle Rittenhouse is a 17-year-old kid. His mom and dad live in neighboring towns, but those towns happen to be over state lines. I mean, anybody knows whether you live in a big city or a rural neighborhood. You know what the next town is, right? It could be 60 minutes away. It could be 5 minutes away, right? But the next town is the next town. This kid, he works. His parents live in the two different towns. He works in one town, lives primarily with his mother in the other town. And Kenosha had this big BLM protests over the kid who got shot in the back while reaching for a knife when he was called upon for a domestic violence thing. So a friend of Kyle's asked him to help protect a business because apparently there was a used car lot. And obviously, if you own a used car lot, your life savings and all your credit and everything you own and everything that your name is good for is tied up in used car inventory. And unfortunately for this particular business, there were violent protests where they were destroying everything in sight. And the cops were not even going into the middle of the protest to stop them. They were just blocking them off in a perimeter where the protesters could do anything they want, including lighting things on fire, shooting guns at each other, which you'll see what was going on. People were shooting guns all over the place. And they're throwing Molotov cocktails. Molotov cocktails, instead of bringing beer to this party, you bring a 6-pack of Molotov cocktails. And that would destroy this guy's used car lot. So we called, I don't even know, 4, 8, 12 people standing around armed, just trying to make sure that the protesters don't do any damage to the used car lot. Kyle, a 17-year-old kid, was invited, and he seemed excited to go help. Now, should a 17-year-old kid be armed and put into this situation? It depends on who you ask. I could see the conversation going, his mom saying, I don't want you going over there. And Kyle saying, Mom, I'm a lifeguard. I'm not just medically trained like a coach learned CPR and teachers learn the Heimlich maneuver. Like he was trauma trained, almost not quite, but almost like a certain, if you're in the Army and you're a nurse or something, right? He was like trauma trained for like gunshots or broken bones and stuff like that. And he was a lifeguard, and he had experience with guns, and he was a patriot who didn't want to see his friend's business get ransacked. So I think he explained to his mom, this is why I've been training. And there's video of the kid. He's over there the next morning after the initial protests, and he's scrubbing graffiti off the school walls. He's doing interviews telling people how he's there to protect that particular business, but at the same time, since he's medically trained, he's going to go help people because people were getting hurt. And And then you see, before the shootings happened, he's running around saying, do you need help? Do you need medical help? He's not asking you, are you black or white, or are you pro-police or anti-police? Anybody who needs medical help, this kid's running around trying to help these people. So then he gets into a confrontation with someone, and he starts running away to avoid the confrontation. The guy throws something at him. After the fact, we find out it was just like a bag with hardly anything in it. But he threw something at Kyle. Kyle's trying to run away. He gets caught in a maze of cars in like a gas station or something. And he turns around. The guy grabs Kyle's gun, so Kyle shoots him. Kyle then stands up and he's looking down trying to figure out how to help this guy or if he should help this guy. And he's, obviously he's probably traumatized. He's a 17-year-old kid, and you'll see he's a somewhat innocent kid considering everything that's going on. He's not like the type of 17-year-old, I don't know. Anyway, so then in his hesitation, people start saying, get him, get him, get him. He just shot our friend or whatever. So he starts running away. Now he's running down the street towards the police barricade because the police won't enter. So he's running towards where the police are, which is like 3 blocks away. While he's running away, some guy tries to punch him in the back of the head, which knocks him off balance, knocks his hat off. He scares him. He's still running, but he loses his balance and falls over. Then some guy comes and drop kicks him in the head. Another guy comes, hits him in the head with a skateboard 2 times. And then the guy who hits him in the head with the skateboard, he shoots him before he hits him a 3rd time. Then the other guy was coming up with a gun in his hand. He's running up to Kyle with a gun, and then he puts his hands up and stops running at Kyle. You see Kyle relax for a second, and then the guy pulls the gun and goes to point it at Kyle, and Kyle shoots the guy's arm off. Then, in his deliriousness, stands up and goes back to the original task at hand, running towards the police line. He runs towards the police line and turns himself in. All 3 instances pretty much seem like self-defense. All 3 instances, he seems to not want to kill people. For example, he's running away from the initial confrontation. The guy chases him down and grabs his gun. The second confrontation, he gets attacked and he shoots. And then the third confrontation, he aims the gun. The guy puts his hands up and nobody gets shot. Then the guy draws the gun on Kyle, and that's when he gets shot. And then Kyle runs to the police and says, listen, I just shot a couple of dudes. It was in self-defense. I like to turn myself in or whatever the protocol is after you've just shot 3 people. So, here's a little bit of video showing the shooting and what I just described. The first one, this is the best video we have. It's only 10 seconds of the guy throwing the bag at Kyle and then the initial shots. Now, mind you, the first gunshots you hear were not Kyle, but it scared Kyle thinking he was under attack. Play tape.
Oh, we got a gun, baby. Oh, they
And there you go. Those 4 shots at the end were Kyle shooting the guy. Again, we don't have good video. There was bad video that showed him hesitating, thinking about helping him, but then people running after him and he runs away. So this next video is him running away and everything that happens, unedited, unstopped, just pure video of everything that happened right after that as he's running towards the police barricade. Play tape.
What do you do? Get his ass!
just shot them. Dude right here just shot all of them down there. That dude just shot them right there. That dude right here. Yeah.
Someone injured straight ahead. No! Get out of the road!
Get down there! God damn it!
And that's it. I mean, there you have it with your own eyes, everything that happened. You could have differing opinions, but you can't really say he was out there looking to kill people, because I probably would have popped off some more shots and been more scared than Kyle. And he hit almost all his shots, which is pretty amazing. But they're prosecuting him. And the prosecution went first. And the prosecution seemed like they were presenting a case for the defense. All right? This is going to be the prosecutor in the Rittenhouse trial, and he calls a witness that destroys his own case. Now, the first guy Kyle shot died, the guy who threw the bag. The second guy, I think it was the skateboard guy, also died from his injuries. The third guy who pulled the gun didn't die. He got his arm blown off. And then the fourth guy, I think, was the guy who tried to punch him in the back of the head. All right? So this is the prosecution's witness explaining the thought process between what the guy who was about to point the gun at Kyle was thinking. Play tape.
Sequence of the folks that were involved in this running, as we've seen in many other videos, is Mr. Rittenhouse is in front, Mr. Rosenbaum is running after him, and you are behind Mr. Rosenbaum. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
How far back from Mr. Rosenbaum were you as the pursuit went through the Car Source parking lot?
Well, it's hard to say because I kind of caught up to them. I was running a bit faster, and so at the time initially I was probably 30 feet back when everybody first started running, but then by the time I arrived in the lot, it was 15 feet.
And you continued to be behind Mr. Rosenbaum at the time that the defendant shot and killed him, correct?
I did alter my trajectory a little bit when I saw Mr. Rittenhouse turn around and saw Mr. Rosenbaum lunging for the front portion of the rifle.
As he grabbed the rifle. I mean, that's it. Once you start, if somebody's sitting there with a gun and you try to grab their gun, you know, they're going to shoot you. That's an act of aggression. And he's laying on the ground saying, "Stay away from me, dude." And he goes in and grabs the gun. You're going to get shot. But here's another example of the case for the prosecution getting destroyed. Play tape.
I mean, you have no idea what Mr. Rosenbaum was ever thinking at any point in his life. You have never been inside his head. You never met him before. You don't know.
I've never exchanged words with him, if that's what your question is.
So your interpretation of what he was trying to do or what he was intending to do or anything along those lines is complete guesswork, isn't it?
Well, he said, "Fuck you," and then he reached for the weapon.
Well, that might give you an idea into what the person was thinking and if he was intending to cause harm on Kyle Rittenhouse. He said "F you" and drew his weapon. These are the prosecution's witnesses. And that was the prosecutor asking the questions. Imagine when the defense starts explaining their side of the story. Well, here's the kid that we've all been dying to meet. And this is him explaining what happened to him. And of all the viewer discretion, this is the toughest video to watch, in my opinion. Play tape.
Over my shoulder, and Mr. Rosenbaum was now running from my right side, And I was cornered from in front of me with Mr. Zeminski, and there were three people right there.
Take a deep breath, Kyle.
That's what I. That's what I run.
We're going to just take time for our break anyway. You can just relax for a minute, sir. We're going to take a break about 10 minutes, and please don't talk about the case during the break. Read, watch, or listen to any comment.
All right. FULBJ. If you know, then you know. But, I mean, that was a panic attack. You just witnessed an 18-year-old kid have a panic attack on the stand, reliving the most traumatic thing that any of us will ever encounter. And you have people mocking him and pretending that he's faking it. I mean, I'm sorry, but if you hear the kid talk at all, you realize he's not Mel Gibson over here going to turn on a panic attack. If you think that was a fake panic attack, I'm sorry. But here you go. Here's more. Here's Kyle having his composure a little bit better, fighting against, I'm sorry, man, this guy, this prosecutor, man, let's leave it at that. But this is an 18-year-old kid and this seasoned prosecutor going toe-to-toe. And you tell me who you think comes out looking like the more intelligent one. Play tape.
Somebody that you shot at that night you intended to kill, correct?
I didn't intend to kill them. I intended to stop the people who were attacking me.
By killing them?
I did what I had to do to stop the person who was attacking me.
By killing them?
2 of them passed away, but I stopped the threat from attacking me.
By using deadly force?
I used deadly force.
That you knew was going to kill?
I didn't know if it was going to kill them, but I used deadly force to stop the threat that was attacking me.
You intentionally used deadly force against Joseph Rosenbaum, correct?
Yes.
You intentionally used deadly force against the man who came and tried to kick you in the face,
yes.
Correct? You intentionally used deadly force against Anthony Huber, correct?
Yes.
You intentionally used deadly force against Gage Grosskreutz, correct?
Yes.
With regard to Joseph Rosenbaum, you fired 4 shots at him, correct?
Yes.
You intended to kill him, correct?
I didn't intend to kill him. I intended to stop the person who was attacking me and trying to steal my gun.
Everybody that you shot...
I was trying to stop the man from attacking me and stealing my gun. All right? So as the video evidence, the prosecution's case, and now the defendant takes the stand, as the case is falling apart, many people are saying that the prosecution is trying to throw the case into a mistrial on purpose as they continue to do a series of blunders against people's constitutional rights. I'll explain some of them as we go along, but here's the beginning of the judge telling the prosecution, and this is just the beginning, that they have to stop with their antics, that they know better, and that this is not allowed in a court in the United States. Play tape.
You need to account for this.
Your Honor, I don't want to jury here. He's commenting on my client's right to remain silent.
No, Your Honor. I am making the point that after hearing everything in the case, now he's tailoring his story to what has already been introduced.
The problem is, this is a grave constitutional violation for you to talk about the defendant's silence. And that is, and you're right. You're right on the borderline, and you may be over, but it better stop.
Understood.
This is, I can't think of the case that initial case on it, but this is not permitted.
Play that last line, if you don't mind. No, just from there.
Initial case on it, but this is not permitted. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought he was going to finish with it's a grave constitutional violation. That must have been in the middle of the video. But nonetheless, this is because there's certain, you notice that the Bill of Rights and the Constitution puts limits on government, not on people. And in the Bill of Rights, there's a lot that has to do with criminality and bringing charges against a person. All right? Some of those things include the right to remain silent and the right to hire an attorney, because you might say something that it's taken out of context, and you need a lawyer to protect you from saying something that could be taken out of context or used against you. So all people, I'll tell you right now, if you ever get arrested, whether it's for, DUI or murder, you have the right to remain silent, and you should. And you should hire a lawyer and let a lawyer tell you what to do. And the prosecution is not allowed to use your silence or you obtaining a lawyer against you. All right? That's people's rights in a criminal case. So you can't go into court and say, oh, well, you were silent when you had your first police interview until you had a lawyer speaking. What were you hiding? You're not allowed to say that. You're not allowed to. If you want a lawyer, you're going to see in a minute. I'll tell you. You're going to see in a minute a guy who took the video got a lawyer because he was subpoenaed to testify. And he's scared. Who wants to get involved in this stuff, right? Courts and lawyers and judges and, that's not fun stuff. And if you don't cross your I's and cross your T's and dot your I's, you could get in trouble when you start getting involved in all this stuff. So a guy got his video camera. They used his video, and he got a lawyer, and they're trying to use that against him. And the lawyer's losing his mind. All right? Here's the prosecution trying to pin the whole video game argument on Kyle Rittenhouse. And as a person who enjoys playing video games, I think Kyle hit it out of the ballpark with this response.
Because it looked cool.
I thought it looked cool. Guess that's the reason, yes.
It resembled the types of weapons that are used in first-person shooter video games, correct?
I don't really play first-person shooter video games. I have, but I believe there's a variety of guns, including shotguns, pistols. There's guns in video games that resemble all guns.
Isn't it true when you would hang out with Dominic Black, you'd play Call of Duty and other first-person shooter video games?
Sometimes.
And those are games in which you use weapons like AR-15s to pretty much shoot anybody who comes at you, correct?
It's a video game where two players are playing together. I don't really understand the meaning of your question, to be honest.
Isn't one of the things people do in these video games try and kill everyone else with your guns?
Yeah, the video game, it's just a video game. It's not real life.
Yes. I'm hoping to go home tonight and shoot everything that moves in my video game as well. All right? Video games are almost an American pastime. And I don't think the video game is the reason why Kyle Rittenhouse shot those 3 people. But here we go. And this is the judge continuing to beg the prosecutor to have some judicial morals. Play tape.
My understanding of
You should have come and asked for reconsideration. You did on the one motion, and in fact, I granted your motion for reconsideration.
That was not our motion.
Excuse me. I did. I granted.
We did not move
that
to
was
reconsider.
Their motion.
We have not filed any
me.
motions to reconsider in this case.
That was their motion for reconsideration, which I denied. But I said I denied it, or I indicated a bias towards denial is what I did. Held it open with a bias towards denial. Why would you think that that made it okay for you, without any advance notice, to bring this matter before the jury? I was astonished when you began your examination by commenting on the defendant's post-arrest silence. That's basic law. It's been basic law in this country for 40 years, 50 years. I have no idea why you would do something like that. And it gives, I'll leave it at that. So I don't know what you're up to.
May I respond?
Yes.
We filed an other acts motion on this exact issue because, in my mind, and I argued this, it is identical to what was going on the night of August 25th, in the sense that the defendant was using this exact same weapon. He was using it in a manner to try and protect property.
No, he wasn't.
Your Honor, with all due respect,
I'm not going to rehash the motion. That's absolutely untrue. No. Your argument's of record. My comments are of record, and why I ruled as I did is of record. There's nothing that I heard in this trial to suggest that anything's changed, even if you're correct in your assumption that you know more than I did at the time. You should have come to the court and say, I want to go into this. Why you would think that you could go into it without any...
All right, what he's referring to there is the fact that you can't use, somebody's stupid Facebook post against them when you're in a self-defense trial, right? The judge correctly is not allowing, for example, pictures of Kyle Rittenhouse shooting a gun on his Facebook page, or evidence of him winning a Call of Duty tournament, or taking pictures with people that may be interpreted as unscrupulous, because what happened was an instant decision. He was attacked and he shot. It had no predication on prior beliefs or thoughts or statements or anything, because it was a heat of the moment thing. So you can't bring up, pictures that he took 3 years ago, statements that he made 6 months ago, or, like he said, being silent after, utilizing his right to remain silent afterwards. And the prosecution keeps doing these things, which, the idiot in the basement doing a podcast know these are tenets of law. Of course, this prosecutor knows that what he's doing is wrong, but he keeps going. So the judge continues to admonish him. But the judge is not declaring a mistrial, even though that's seemingly what the prosecution wants. The judge wants this to go to the jury and this to be over with. That's why he's not calling a mistrial. Play tape.
He knows if you're going to go into something that's been excluded in a pretrial order, you better ask the court, you better get permission. This is ridiculous.
It wasn't excluded, Your Honor.
You know why it was excluded in the first place? Because it was propensity evidence. That is exactly what 90404 is designed to prevent. You're talking about his attitudes. His attitude is he wants to shoot people. Now, I've admitted that kind of evidence in other trials when it's been appropriate. I didn't admit it in this case because, to me, what I've heard in this trial, and by the way, Mr. Richards absolutely correctly points out that just hours ago, I said I had heard nothing in this trial to change any of my rulings. So why?
Testimony, Your Honor.
Pardon me?
That was before the defense testimony.
Don't get brazen with me. You knew very well. You know very well that an attorney can't go into these types of areas when the judge has already ruled without asking outside the presence of the jury to do so. So don't give me that. That's number one. Number two, this is propensity evidence. I said at the time that I made my ruling, and I'll repeat again now for you, I see no similarity between talking about wishing you had your AR gun, which you don't have, so that you could fire rounds at these thought to be shoplifters, and the incidents in these cases, which are not, there's nothing in your case that suggests the defendant was lying in wait to shoot at somebody. or reflecting upon the shooting for a vast amount of time. Every one of the incidents involves matters that involve seconds in time.
So that's what I was explaining before. Apparently, Kyle made some sort of statement and this is purely conjecture on my part, but he saw like videos of people just shoplifting, like just going into Ulta or Walgreens or whatever and just filling up a cart, or the guy who went to the supermarket and fills up with beers and just walks out. And Kyle said something like, these people should be shot for shoplifting. So the prosecution wants to bring that, and that's what's called propensity evidence, which is evidence that paints a picture of a person, and the judge is saying that has nothing to do with this case. That's why I won't allow propensity evidence in this trial. It's a self-defense trial, like I was just explaining. I wish that was it. And again, this is why I'm telling you the prosecution is trying to force a mistrial. Play tape.
Ruling that the evidence wasn't coming in, and you decided that it was.
If I could just respond to that briefly, Your Honor, I was about to say, I did not interpret your ruling as an absolute. We've had 3 state motions in limine. There was one in which we asked the court to introduce evidence that the defendant was at Pudgy's bar with the Proud Boys, and you were clear that is not coming in. There was,
don't get into other subjects. Come on, what you're telling me. You're an experienced trial attorney, and you're telling me that when the judge says, I'm excluding this, you just to take it upon yourself to put it in because you think that you've found a way around it? Come on.
If I may finish, Your Honor, I was about to say that your ruling on our 3 motions and other acts motions was there were some gradations there. That you were clear that some things were absolutely out, and then you left the door open on other things. So I saw that distinction, and I thought to myself, clearly I know this is out, but you left the door open on other things. So I didn't interpret your ruling as this is absolutely never coming in, and I have practiced before you, Your Honor. I have filed other acts motions before you. Your practice oftentimes is to reserve ruling on those until you see the evidence. And I think you even said something to that effect at our motion.
I undoubtedly did.
So I thought this is my good faith explanation to you, and if you want to yell at me, you can. My good faith feeling this morning after watching that testimony was you had left the door open a little bit, now we had something new, and I was going to probe it.
I don't believe you. There better not be another incident. I'll take the motion under advisement.
I mean, all right, this is 4 or 5 times now. The prosecution is blatantly, intentionally, seemingly intentionally, throwing the case and forcing the judge to judge in a mistrial. But what does the guy do? They continue to hint at things the judge explicitly said not to. Play tape.
Attorney that you have out of Madison?
What's the relevance of this?
Well, Your Honor, we've had a lot of questions about other people.
What's the relevance of this?
I would like to know why he felt the need to retain an attorney to provide video in this case. I think it goes to bias. I think it goes to credibility. It's been asked of other witnesses.
Let's take the lunch break. Please don't talk about the case during the break.
And there you go. I mean, the judge had to kick the jury out. Did you hear what the guy just said? That him bringing an attorney with him implicates bias? As an American citizen, we all have the right to retain an attorney for anything we're doing. This is the videographer that I was telling you about earlier. And the judge is like, what are you doing? And then he says it out loud in front of the jury. And the judge is like, get the jury out. So, luckily, we got through the entire court case without a mistrial. Of course, I expect the prosecution to do something wrong during closing arguments on Monday to try to ensure a mistrial, and I'm sure the judge is not going to do it. What the jury is going to do, only God knows. I know there's reports of pictures of the jury being circulated on social media and stuff in a very threatening way. You have the media who, I don't understand, after Covington, the media is going to get sued by everybody. You know what? don't take my word for it. I'm going to show you what the media has been saying about Kyle Rittenhouse when it first came to fruition or to light, and ever since then. And they've held true even after all of the evidence points to this being an open and shut case about self-defense. The media is painting Kyle Rittenhouse as enemy number one. And this is why we as conservatives can no longer trust it. Because they won't come clean even now. One person has come clean and said they changed their mind about the Rittenhouse. Here you go. This is your American mainstream media. Play tape.
Kyle Rittenhouse, he murdered 2 people, by the way.
Rittenhouse is basically what you would have had in a school shooter. He's a 17-year-old kid. He shouldn't have had a gun. He crossed state lines to supposedly protect property. No, he was going out to shoot people.
Kyle Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old vigilante.
Kyle Rittenhouse, a vigilante.
Kyle Rittenhouse, the armed teenage vigilante.
A 17-year-old vigilante, arguably a domestic terrorist, picked up a rifle, drove to a different state to shoot people.
Kyle Rittenhouse, a guy who's deeply racist, went with weapons to a Black Lives Matter protest looking to get in trouble. He did. He murdered a couple of people.
Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old kid, just running around, shooting and killing protesters.
You see the 17-year-old who was radicalized by Trumpism, took his AR-15 to Kenosha and became a killer.
A white, Trump-supporting, MAGA-loving, Blue Lives Matter social media partisan, 17 years old, picks up a gun, drives from one state to another with the intent to shoot people.
A 17-year-old boy who drove across state lines with an AR-15 and started shooting people up, including a guy with a skateboard.
Kyle Rittenhouse, who has killed protesters, unarmed protesters.
Rittenhouse, a 17-year-old that went with a weapon into the middle of protests and then provoked people and then shot and killed them.
Kyle Rittenhouse is the enemy.
A boy from out of state drives up to the state with an AR-15 around his neck, shoots and kills a couple of people, shooting wildly, running around, acting like rent-a-cop.
Drove across state lines armed with a rifle to go and shoot people.
What a dark dystopian scene where a 17-year-old boy is carrying around a rifle, running around and gunning down protesters.
All right. Either every single one of those statements was either hyperbole or a straight lie. And Kyle Rittenhouse is going to be a rich, rich man. Even Joe Biden attributed him to being a white nationalist, calling him a racist. We had the Chauvin trial and we had the Rittenhouse trial. Both of those are marquee examples of American racism in the media, but race was never brought up in either of those trials because it had nothing to do with race. Some white kid shot three white dudes. But it's all about race. And he's got to be a racist and a white supremacist. And they talk about he walked into the protest just shooting people. Yeah, that's good context there, Scarborough. I mean, what a joke. But we will find out what happened. I hope it's uneventful. I know they're bringing in the National Guard. They're expecting riots. No matter what the verdict is, they're expecting big riots. I'm fully expecting a not guilty verdict on all counts. So therefore, that would ensure riots. You can't be. You can't be for criminal justice reform and then prosecute Kyle Rittenhouse. You can't be for bail reform and emptying the jails and second chances when a kid, an innocent kid, was really trying to help people. And 4 people attacked him. 2 of them died. 1 of them got his arm blown off for it. But Godspeed. We wish everybody the best. We hope nobody gets hurt. All right? If you want your kid to be down to earth, logical, and make smart decisions, you got to send them to Infinity, the Math Institute. Play tape. So, we'll let you know what happens. We'll be covering the closing arguments and the verdict and the ensuing, hopefully, peacefulness on next week's Johnny Brew Show. All right? We already dropped the Mark Robertson interview. I apologize. I saved it for a week, and then they redistrict everything, and he's running for a different congressional seat. I'm sorry to Mark. I thought I could save something in my back pocket, and I paid the price for it. So, I learned my lesson. I promise. We also talked about, I did a nice little expose about Colin Kaepernick and his little slave NFL parallel video. And I told you what I really think about football, all right, and scholarship and athleticism in our student athletes. We did one on COVID and what's been going on, the latest updates and what's going on with Fauci and Rand Paul, as well as, what's going on with mandates and what are they trying to push? Are they really trying to push it on 5-year-old children? That's the question, right? We finally did a third episode on, the economy, inflation, the price of energy, and what is the end goal of this dystopian administration. It's really scary. The scariest Johnny Brew Show episode you'll ever see is the one about economics. All right, I think I named it, what did I name it? The economy is bringing us the dystopian reality. That's what I'm going to name it. Please subscribe. Hit the little bell for when we go live. We're on Rumble, The Johnny Brew Show with no spaces. Spotify, Apple Podcast, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Anchor, Facebook. Look up The Johnny Brew Show. Common Sense Nevada, where you can share anything you want, and also the new CCSD Board of Trustees 2022 and 2024. All right, thank you so much, guys. I know how much you guys look forward to the episodes, and I really appreciate that, and that motivates me to keep working harder. Thanks to all my colleagues, whether you're 360 News, the PAA Podcast, Michelle Mortensen, Chuck, Rick Charles, and everybody that I might be forgetting, all right? My name is John Brookhagen. Thanks for watching The Johnny Brew Show.